I Love Me podcast, where we talk about self-love, positivity, and how to be whoever the hell you want to be. My name is Thor, and I'm so happy to be with you today, and I'm joined by a very special guest, Rami, but I'll just let him introduce himself.
Well, first of all, thanks for having me, Thor. My name is Rami. I'm a Tunisian 19-year-old, third year in the aviation program in Mount Allison, and I'm just really happy to be here.
Thank you. I'm happy to have you here. So let's just hop straight into it. Have you ever had any negative experiences within your life?
Well, the obvious answer is yes, and I've had a lot of them. Well, to be specific, I guess the biggest issue for me growing up was an identity issue. Both my parents are originally Tunisian, and I was born and raised outside of Tunisia. Like, I grew up in Saudi Arabia, and the biggest problem that I had is fitting in in that group. Obviously, it was a different culture. I mean, It wasn't that distant. It was a mostly Arab culture where traditions are mostly similar, but obviously it's not the same. So again, growing up in schools that were primarily of a Saudi population, it was just really difficult to fit in. Like, I do remember at one point I did master the accent, the Saudi Arabian Arabic accent. But again, there was always that issue of people looking at me and being like, oh, you do not look Saudi, so I'm going to treat you differently, or I'm going to use that point just to assert my dominance on you, or at least control what you say or what you do around me. But I believe I've reached a point where that's been history for me.
Yeah, so within those moments, you were going through people telling you, oh, you're not Saudi enough, and then you go back to Tunisia and be like, you just feel out of place sometimes. So in those moments, what did you feel?
Well, Thor, by saying that, you struck a very special chord, which I haven't heard from anyone but my family. And again, it was a very big issue because for the majority of the year I would be living in Saudi Arabia, and then I'd go back to Tunisia just for the summers or or winter breaks or for special occasions.
Yeah.
And then I would face the same challenge of people telling me, "Oh, you're not Tunisian enough." So again, it was mostly hurtful growing up, and it left me in a void of sorts where I just couldn't freely define myself, or would always be striving to find that correct umbrella to follow.
Wow. Yeah, definitely I go through that emotion sometimes as well, because coming from the Bahamas and now here in Canada, it's when I go back home, it's oh, you don't have an accent anymore. Or when I come back home and I dress a certain way, how I dressed in Canada, they'd be like, oh, where are you going? This is not something that we're used to, or they're used to seeing. They expect you to live in this one certain bubble, one certain way, act a certain way, especially when you're from a specific country. And if you're a specific gender, you have gender roles applied upon you and stuff like that. So it's definitely hurtful if someone you're very close to, or someone you love, goes on with this behavior, is the one that's telling you oh, you're not enough of this or you're not enough of that. So I definitely understand where you're coming from. Is there anything else that you want to share with us?
Absolutely. Well, carrying on from the same point of that struggle of the struggle of defining yourself and finding the correct umbrella to follow. I believe that reflected on my life in sorts, and it just put me in this character that I found myself very satisfied being. But again, it caused a lot of people to be uncomfortable around me, I would say. To be specific, struggling to express myself in a certain way and being afraid of how people might perceive that has made me a very quiet person that does not say anything or does not convey his emotions to other people. At one point, I found myself completely satisfied with being that person and just doing my own thing, keeping my head down and just shutting off whatever people say and not caring about what people say about me or think about me. But just recently, however, through constant reflection and just asking close people to me, how do you what do you think of me, and what do you think are some negative sides to my personality and character and stuff like that? It really shed some light on the specific area, and I guess now I know there's no shame in being yourself, and you do not have to follow these very strict labels or these very strict titles that people give you. so what if I'm not completely Tunisian or completely Saudi? Like, I'm just Rami, you know?
I know that's right.
But, yeah.
Love that. So you said that sometimes who you were would make people uncomfortable. Why?
I believe because even like growing up, I was always following the path of I do not really need to conform to like a very strict title. People were uncomfortable because I guess we have a tendency as humans, or a lot of humans have a tendency to just put other people in molds, and by doing that, they treat that certain group a certain way. And again, it's always a case of stereotyping, and I guess it's sometimes human nature, but it's something that we need to be really aware of. And yeah, like if I say stereotype someone, it just makes it much easier for me to deal with that person based on specific trends or things that I've noticed on people that are similar to you in a sense. But every person is different, and every human is different. We go through different experiences, and I think treating people is something that grows on you. It is not something that is obviously stereotyped or something that you pre-categorize before you meet a person.
Yeah, like I definitely agree on what you said about like the stereotypes. Honestly, I completely agree with you, because if in our society today, we meet one person having an argument with another person, and let's say that person is black, that's our preconceived notion of every black person. And if we talk about someone who's from an Arabic country or a Muslim country, we preconceive them as what we see in the media or like what we see in movies and news outlets. So when we go into these stereotypes, we therefore devalue who that person actually is. We devalue who they are, their experiences, and what they've gone through as a person to make them unique and special in their own right and way. And so when going through these experiences and emotions, what crossed your mind? Like, what thoughts crossed your mind? Not feelings, but like thoughts. Like, why am I like this? Is there something wrong with me? Like, what thoughts crossed your mind?
I would say like it was more like a tug of war. Like two sides really like pulled me. One was like, oh, I'd have to conform with what those people demand of me.
Yeah.
Or what those stereotypes demand of me. Or two, I would just be myself and forget about everything and neglect everything. But I think the best solution that I have found for myself was to kind of take that middle ground. Like conforming with society is not always a bad thing. Like people have certain traditions and certain rituals that they keep up throughout history because they're actually beneficial or they actually represent us in a good way. But it is also extremely essential for the human being and for the human being's growth to have that individual side to them.
Yeah.
Like obviously just because I'm Tunisian does not mean that I like every single thing all other Tunisians like. The same thing with the dislikes. Like it's really that middle ground and that comfort zone that everyone likes to find, and I think I find mine like just in the middle, not completely conforming and not being my own self all the time.
Yeah. Like, and then I feel like sometimes we have to switch ourselves up in like different situations. Like when we're with our parents, like we're a completely different person. Especially me. Like I'm just so, yes, ma'am, yes, sir. When I'm with my friends, I'm like, what up? Like, what's going on? So like finding that like middle ground and that balance or like equilibrium, like for different situations is sort of a good, it's actually a good thing, because like you're changing yourself to be in different environments, which is like adaptable.
Certainly. Yeah. Well, here's the thing. Like, I obviously won't hang out. Like, I won't hang out or say the same things that I would say to my parents. Compared to how I would talk with my friends. Of course, like people that are around us, and especially people that are close to us, bring out different sides to us. But again, talking to myself when I'm on my own in the shower or whatever setting it would be, I think that I find myself best as someone that is, again, not non-conforming to everything that society lays on us, and also someone that is not restricted by ego and by a self-driven force.
Yeah, you're definitely a boss. Like, I give you that. You're a boss.
Wow.
And like, especially in like your aviation, your career, like you're def a boss.
Well, my favorite show, my favorite TV show of all time is The Office, and my favorite character is Michael Scott. If you're familiar.
I never watched The Office.
Well, that's that's something we need to talk about later.
So, like, when you mentioned, like, the whole thing about, like, with your parents, with your friends, like, you try to be adaptable. It's so true because someone once told me, like, you should be yourself, who you are in every situation. And I'm just like, no. Sometimes you have to change yourself because some people are not worthy of seeing the whole you. Sometimes you have to change yourself because I just want to be who I am around this person. Friendship dynamics are a thing. Just because I am a certain way with you does not mean I'm a certain way with Shashank or like Sion or like people I also know. So like just because I have a perception of who you are does not mean the perception who you are to someone else is the same.
Absolutely. And again, because like humans grow and humans change over time, and the only way for you to grow, truly, I believe, is by experiencing different things with others. And you cannot truly enjoy a moment or an experience with someone without opening up, being vulnerable in sorts. So again, like being completely restricted, I think is sometimes utterly useless.
Period. Yeah, I completely agree. So like when you were going through these emotions of like hurt and pain from people trying to fit you into a box, how did you climb your stairs to get out of that?
Well, initially, Thor, like what I was told at the beginning, the advice that I was given, just like keep your head down, do your own thing, and your eventual success will just prove to everyone that you're yourself, and like it won't matter then. And I did try that route initially, and it did work to an extent. But I think that ultimately what works is being truly proud of oneself, and just like standing up and expressing yourself to whatever frame you'd like to be in. It's powerful, honestly, when I talk to someone and they just talk so freely and they talk so proudly about themselves, and I just think that's like one of the most beautiful scenes, or one of the most beautiful things you could ever hear from someone, is just someone that is proud of themselves. And eventually that was what I chose to do. And while I might not be super showy about who I am or what I like and what I dislike, I just feel very comfortable in my own skin. And whenever someone asks me questions about myself, I'm never ashamed to answer anything.
Yeah, definitely. There's nothing wrong with hyping yourself up. Some people see it as arrogant. Some people see it as, you're too cocky. No, I'm hyping myself up because I deserve it. You don't know what I've been through in my life to hype myself up today.
Absolutely.
Because I know when I was like younger, or like when I was going through my emotional times, when I was bullied in high school, going through this and that with my family, whatever, I turned to like cutting myself. That was like my way of like dealing with all of my emotions. And yeah, like that was my whole thing. But I realized that like I'm only subduing my pain for a temporary moment for it to come back for me to subdue it again, instead of like dealing with it head on and facing it instead of running away from it through this method that's not healthy or like it's not safe. And so there was this one time that like I was just like, I'm over it, like I'm done. And I put my finger in a stick blender, and then my mom wasn't home, I was home alone. And then after I did it, I was like, what the hell did I just do? And then I passed out on the floor, and my mom came home. She met me passed out on the floor, and she took me to the hospital immediately, and I got it sewn up. But like I lost so much blood, but it was just like that one moment was a turning point in my life. I was like, what the fuck am I doing? Like I need to change my outlook on life and be grateful that I have life. I have breath. I am who I am. I can't change that. The most I could do is lose weight, but the way that's going, that's not happening. So that's the only thing that I can do right now. So yeah, and yeah, that's the things that I've been through.
Well, here's the thing, Thor. Like, a lot of us go through a lot of things, especially in our formative years. So, like, the early teens are just, like, an extremely important age for us to really discover who we are. And you and I, like, I think we grew up in a generation where, like, we were used to life before internet really became a thing. And then we were also a part of, like, the internet as it became major and took over our lives. So again, that introduced a lot of kids. Like I'm sure you and I, like we were introduced to a lot of a lot of like mainstream celebrities, and that also in turn exposes us to a lot of insecurities and being really uncomfortable with being the people who we are, because we look on the internet and, oh, that's a god or a goddess or whatever. So yeah, like it's just sad, honestly, and seeing how a lot of kids these days look up to those internet celebrities and feel really uncomfortable in their skins, which I believe should be rectified, honestly, on the internet. Like, I believe there should be a lot of content on the internet nowadays or on mainstream media that highlights the importance of self-love and being comfortable in your own skin over anything else, honestly.
Yeah, like I definitely agree, because that's the reason I love TikTok so much, because like you could create your own like For You page to what you want to attract. So if you want to attract positivity, you see positivity scrolling down your For You page. And instead of like emulating someone or like casting like, oh, I wish I looked like this onto yourself, think about who you are and like just love yourself. I know it's easier said than done, but the person you're looking up to wants to change something about themselves. They have their own insecurities that they need to work through. So you're looking at someone, and when you get there, or if you get there, then you get there and you're just like, well, I need to change this now. Like it's never enough. You just keep chasing the ride of like not loving yourself and not reaching that point of where you're like, I need to accept myself for who I am.
I absolutely agree. And another thing that's really helped me, like being comfortable with who I am, or at least having that calmness in my life, is meditation. In fact, like I took up meditation 2 months ago, and like I meditate every single night before I sleep, and I just feel like that. I believe that spiritual experience really really creates that bond between your mind, heart, and soul, and it's just like having that calming existence, I would say, would just make you truly accepting of who you are, of your surroundings, of your progress in life, of where you're headed, of your obstacles. And it just like just sitting down, truly like looking at yourself, admiring your body and your mind for what it is. It's just something that's liberating, I'd say.
Ooh. So you mentioned how you like to meditate and like how you do things to like gain that sense of who you are. What are 5 things that you do that make you happy?
5 things. Well, that's a tough one. But the first I would say is meditation. Again, it's just like a really calming and reassuring place that I find myself at every night. And the second would be cooking, honestly. Like I find it to be a very healing experience. Like even on like my bad days where I'm like bad, it's just like go ham with the spices and just like I don't know, just like feel my anger there, like instead of on other people or on my own self. So yeah, I'd say cooking would be the second one. Third is definitely exercising. Specifically, I'd say like playing basketball. I feel like it's a thing of mine. The fourth, which I was really fortunate to have this year, was flying. I don't know, it's just like for the absolute length of my life, like I just really wanted to be a pilot, and having the opportunity to do it this year was just something that was a reminder for me that I'm on the right track and I'm satisfied with what I'm doing. And the fifth thing I'd say would just be like the general company of people that I regard as close. So like friends, obviously family. Yeah, it's just friends are true friends, I believe, are people who reinforce your character, people who motivate you to do better things, and people who are not shy to tell you that you've done wrong.
Yeah.
So just being in that company and having like thankfully having family, like it's just a blessing.
Yeah. I'm beefing with you now. I want you to know that.
Why is that?
Because I see you cook all the time in your stories, but you have never invited me over for food. I heard that you borrowed the loud car that you drive with the revved up engine with no gas cover to Shashank and Emma's place to drop them off some food, but you didn't invite me for this whole meal delivery service that you're offering.
Oh, Well,
So what do you have to say about that, sir?
well, you never asked, Thor. You never asked. But I mean, I don't know. I have a really healthy appetite, and the quantities that you see me cook, I absolutely devour it in one setting. So one sitting, sorry. But I'll keep you in mind. I'll keep you in mind.
Food.
I'll keep you in mind.
So yum. Healthy food.
Yeah.
So good. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Thank you. So yeah, like I am glad that you are finally like chasing your dreams with flying and aviation. I know you did like your first solo this year, which is like this year or last year? This year.
It was this year. Yeah.
Which is like really exciting.
It was.
And like so like I guess that your first solo like was your happiest moment of this year. So far.
No doubt. It's just I had a true sense of power when I was in that plane on my by myself flying it. It just felt powerful. Yeah,
I can't wait for you to like start flying for like commercial airlines so I could get free tickets.
I can't wait too.
So you talked about happiness and what that means to you, especially like in your flying in aviation and completing your first solo. So what does your happiness mean to you?
Happiness for me is me being able to sleep every night, being completely comfortable, and being proud of the time that I've spent the day before. Like I like to track my success, or at least I'd say I'd like to track my success on a day-to-day basis. So before I sleep, like very briefly, I just quickly reflect, like, was this a good day? Am I happy with the results, and am I happy of what effort I spent during this day, and am I happy of it contributing to my ultimate goals or objectives in life? And being satisfied with that, and being truly comfortable with what I've done in a certain day is what defines happiness for me.
That's so good. We're complete opposites. My happiness is defined by my day. Like, if someone pisses me off at 2:00, then I'm not happy for the rest of the day. Like, it's over. Like, it was not a good day at all. But, like, if I feel happy again at 3, it still wasn't a good day because I had that one.
Oh, absolutely. But I think, obviously happiness is an emotion. Obviously, it can be affected by any number of events or any number of people that throughout your day.
No, specifically one person.
Oh, yeah.
Shashank.
Person's sitting right across me now.
No, Shashank.
Yeah, exactly. But, for me, I think it matters most if I'm happy with my progress.
Do me a favor, please. Get out of here. Get out of here, man. Shit, I'm saying.
Or if I'm happy with myself more so than with other people.
Yeah, like I definitely agree. Shashank just threw his tape at me.
Yeah, thanks, Shashank.
Shanky. But yeah, like I definitely agree. Like your friend, like my friends for me, they help me when in the times I don't feel happy. And when I go through those moments of like times I don't feel happy, they're really the ones that like help me come back up to like this person I am today. So happy, so bubbly. Everyone sees me and they're like, oh my God, you're so happy. You're such a happy person. I'm like, sure, really? So like in those moments where you feel down or like you're going through like a really bad day or someone pisses you off, what do you find yourself doing to like bring yourself back up to that level of like, I'm Rami again?
The very first thing, and frankly, Thor, is calling my mom, honestly. I think she definitely understands me on way deeper level than anyone else on this planet. Like if that's not available, then I just do the things that make me happy. And back to those 5 things, like whether it be cooking, whether it be exercising, I find it like to be very again, it's just something that you can use to blow some steam off. Like it works for me. And just meditating, again, just like calming myself down, reminding myself that whatever's happening could be worse. It's just calming myself down is the best trick for me personally.
Nice. Like reaching out to my mom is honestly a good thing as well. That's what I find myself doing sometimes as well. But like sometimes like I find my mom doesn't understand and like tries to see things from her perspective instead of like mine, instead of like putting herself in my shoes. She's looking at like her experiences, what she's been through, and like sometimes she can offer that advice because sometimes they say a word from the wise is sufficient. Jesus, I'm stuttering now. But yeah, and so speaking of like the things that you do that make you happy, what does your self-love mean to you? What does Rami mean to you?
I tell you, Rami's a great person, and
Is he?
I'm glad to share his company every day. But yeah, like self-love for me is just again having the liberty and strive just to express myself the way I want to present myself the way I want to be truly comfortable, have peace at night or at day. Yeah, it's just being peaceful with myself, respecting my needs, respecting my wants, is self-love for me.
Do you find that when you go back home to like Tunisia or like back to Saudi Arabia, right? Do you find yourself like reverting back to like, do you find you diminishing your self-love when you go back home?
Absolutely not. No. Having, first of all, like me being in close proximity to my family, and having that emotional support system, does nothing but enforce the self-love that I have towards myself. It just, again, it reminds me of who I am, where I come from, what has gotten me to this place that I am at today. But again, obviously the way, I live life on my own is different, compared to living with my family. So even if like very many details change, in my life, it changes nothing for the respect I have towards myself and for the love that I have towards myself too.
I feel like that's something I have to learn. When I go back home, I find myself like reverting back to like old habits or like old ways, because like in the Bahamas, like when they see you, your status is defined by how you look. Like if you're like, let's say you dress like me on a regular day, you're just like a bum or like some old Joe. But like if you dress like but if you're just like some business person, you're somehow equated to like having a higher amount of status in the Bahamas. And like the thing that defines you in the Bahamas is your weight class. Like when they see you, they're like, oh, I don't think you should be eating like bamboo shack. You should be eating like a salad from like Wendy's or something.
I have no idea what that is, but that sounds delicious though.
It's like a fast food place in the Bahamas. They serve like chicken and fries and stuff like that. Delightful.
Oof.
But yeah, going back home, it's like I find myself reverting back to like that old way, but then I have to like sometimes like snap myself out of it and be like, listen, you are who you are, whether you're in Canada, whether you're in the Bahamas, whether you're in Aruba or Mexico. You are going to be the same person, and everyone, if people don't love you for who you are, then that person is not meant to be in your life, because people are here for seasons and a reason. They're here to teach you things. And if you're going into another season and that someone is not willing to come with you, then sometimes you just have to let that person go, because their season is closed, because you're going into a new chapter of your life.
Absolutely. Like people grow and people develop, and that's completely human natural, I'd say. But I do have to add, though, that I believe that change, or at least societal change, is best induced from an individual level. Yeah. If you truly think something should be pertained to differently, or people should not view you the way that they do, is by changing the view that you have towards yourself. I think if you have that if someone thinks that they are truly prone to what people think of them, that already limits them compared to like that already limits them in itself. But if you completely eliminate that factor from your life, nothing matters anymore.
Message.
Not you spitting out messages on the podcast now. Not Rami dropping messages now. Dang, danger.
Had to do it to him, sorry.
So we talked about self-love, how important it is to us, and like how we hold it so near and dear to our heart. But like, do you have any rules for your self-love? Things you're going to accept, things you're not going to accept when it comes to Rami being Rami?
I do. I think I think self-love for me is a very personal connection with myself. So I wouldn't allow any outside influence on the amount that I love myself. So I'd say respecting my needs, respecting my wants, restraining myself when needed, reflecting, most importantly, and I'd say rewarding myself also.
Nice.
Yeah.
Oh my God. We're ending this podcast on such a good note. Like,
Sad, yet so good.
I know, right? But I just want to thank you again for coming back to another episode of the I Love Me podcast. Thank you so much for coming.
Thanks very much for having me.
No problem. It's been such a great pleasure. And you dropped some really good messages on the podcast. I'm sure my listeners are going to be like, wow.
I hope it'll help.
But thank you all for listening to another episode of the I Love Me podcast, where Rami came and shared his experiences, shared how he loves himself, and shared what makes him happy. If you want to come back and listen to another episode of the I Love Me podcast, come back next week, Saturday, with an all-new guest here to share their perspectives and their insightful wisdom. My name is Thor.
My name is Rami.
And we are out. Thank you guys so much for listening.
I don't need no ring, I'm the diamond. Even on dark days, I be shining. Finally